Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everybody. This is for anyone who runs a business, owns a business. You could be a C-suite executive. You could be the owner of a small business. If you're looking to move your life forward, you're going to want to hear what we have to talk about here. And that starts with knowing that you have incredible power within. You probably don't realize it. And we're going to help you find that today. And this is all part of Masternomics.com. What is that? We're going to learn. He is the chief coach of that company. He's the president of Masternomics, and he's Martin Glin. And he joins us today. Welcome. How are you doing?
Hey, good. Good to be here. I'm doing great. Feeling good.
Yeah, wonderful to have you here. And this is the one thing that really resonates with me as I learned about you is we have great power within. And do you feel that we're not even tapping everything that's within us? We're kind of just, maybe autopilot, maybe on writing on past programs in our subconscious and not really getting to where we could be or deserve to be?
Yes. Yeah. I think that's the problem with us as humans, regardless of where you're at on the planet, your race, whatever. The problem is most of us, I like to say, don't know who we are because we don't know. We all have this God-given power that's within us. And, what I do is helping people create the life that they want. That's what I have to jar in their mind. I have to show them how to reprogram their thinking to realize like you have power inside of you. And if you tap into that, there's nothing you can't do.
Why don't we tap into it automatically?
Well, different reasons. The primary reason is that we already have a set programming. And because of what's been programmed to us, unfortunately, by the ones that love us and we love them, because they don't know what they programmed us with a limited belief. And so if a person believes that they do not have power, they're going to live their life powerless and let other people kind of dictate their reality. And that plays out to everyday people in a job, so to speak, a traditional job. So a lot of it is the systems that we all were brought up into that, were kind of designed to put us on autopilot, right? Because, that's how you set up a society. But, like I tell people, we have this ability to change our reality. And it starts with you understanding that you have that ability.
Do you feel that we don't embrace change, kind of afraid of it? We like to stick with what's comfortable, but in doing so, you kind of do the same thing every day instead of, like I call it, take the rock and slam it in the pond, and then you create ripples. Do you feel that just I don't mean this in a negative way. We're just comfortable. We're just comfortable, but that comfortable doesn't mean you're thriving. Right.
Yeah, the thing is, we're lulled by the illusion of comfortability, right? It's really what separates the highly successful from the average. It's the ability to get uncomfortable, and a lot of us we have got uncomfortable before. It's like if you didn't have a job, you didn't have an employment, and you get hired for the job. There's this uncomfortable feeling because I got a new boss or I got a new manager. Or somebody comes in, but what happens is you end up getting through it. And so, the beginning, you were so scared, but then now 6 months, a year down the line, it's easy peasy and you're barely putting any effort and you're just flowing on autopilot, right? And what our problem is, we are afraid to go to the next level. And we're afraid because we listen to the wrong people. Yeah. So most of us listen to people that have never done anything for themselves. And so if you listen to somebody, so I like to tell people that are afraid to start the business, or they might just be afraid to even make an investment to create another income source. You can't listen to people that have never done it, right? Because the person that has never done it can only tell you how to not do it. And they're going to give you a million reasons why you shouldn't do it. And you should just play it safe. So we live in this comfortable fear zone, right? And so the most fulfilling thing is to get uncomfortable because you don't stay that way all the time. You can never get to a higher level of existence in any aspect until you get uncomfortable, right? You can't get from making 100,000 a year to 200,000 a year, you got to do something different. If you're not on social media, you got to get on social media. You got to overcome this fear of being seen. So it's to get what we want or to get higher in life, we got to get uncomfortable. But that only lasts for a certain time.
Interesting that we talk about this, and it brings up a quick thought and story. What we perceive to be uncomfortable situation probably isn't that. So I was in worked for a company, broadcast company, radio, did the morning show for years. And at that time, I've been doing it since I was 17, not even kidding. At that time, I was 14 years in. Everything was okay.
Yeah.
Lacked of confidence. I was still young.
Yeah.
So got a new boss. I'll never forget the first day. He walks in. He just looks at me, puts his hand out, just like this. How are you? I'm like, I'm toast, man. This is it. I'm out of here.
Heart is pounding.
And I'm like, I don't even know how to handle it. What do I say? I'm like, nice to meet you.
Right.
And he was like that all for weeks. And what he was doing was assessing everybody, seeing who they are. Fast forward now, it's 20-something, 25, almost 30 years later. And he's one of my closest friends. And we are launching a business together.
Wow.
He's leaving a position that he has now and with a walk of faith to hop on board, and we're working on something together. So I bring this up because what you think your reality, the perception is going to be your reality, but it's not necessarily what you think. And I thought I was out the door the next day. Fast forward a couple of weeks after that, he elevated me to a higher position, and I stayed at that position for decades after. So, it's embrace the change. Embrace the change.
Yes,
tell me about your beginnings and what you got, how you got to this point, Martin, helping people move their lives forward.
Yeah, it's a life of experience, and what we all have to realize is that our experiences shape who we are. So for myself, being in New Orleans, right? My father was I'm a military child, brat, as they say. But when we retired in the United States from traveling around the world, we was in New Orleans, Louisiana. And so, there as a young teen, you see a lot of poverty, you see a lot of lack, and really it's a lack mindset, right? And so I knew when I graduated that I didn't want to just be there. I wanted to do something different. So I thought, education would be the way, but went to college. I did not like the curriculum. I didn't like the system, so to speak, because to me, it took away our creative thinking. It was just cookie cutter.
Sure.
And so for me, it was like I was rebellious in that sense, along with another major, which was the female anatomy for me.
I love the way you put it that way, and I forgot the way to put it. I forgot to present it that way, so I'll remember that and share that with my friends.
Yeah.
And thank you for your honesty.
Right. And needless to say, so I wasn't really focused. I had to develop as a person, right? Yeah. But what shifted me was having a child early in life. I was 19. My first child was at the time my baby girl, and so seeing the reality of something, having a reason to live other than myself, I couldn't just get by anymore. So it was like a shift in life, because I'm like, well, I got to take care of a child. I had a father. I came from a lineage of people that handled their business. So in that aspect, I had to handle my business. So I dropped out of school because I really wasn't focused. And it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach, but I wanted to kind of teach my way. And I didn't like the way economics was taught. So I started my first business at 19. It was a t-shirt business. I learned how to buy things wholesale and then, sell it retail. I didn't really realize as I'm doing it, like I'm really into business. It was more kind of a hustle type thing.
Gotcha.
But I started just developing it because I learned, how to budget, because I had to take this money and buy diapers, right? So that kind of grew. And then I as my life kind of went on, I was developing business. I went from just being a t-shirt to having a clothing store. And so it was different events that kept happening. And a lot of it, honestly, was through being a father. A lot of it was going through trying to, have a relationship with my wife at the time and trying to manage a business. So a lot of it was traumatic. It was not easy, but it was developing me as a person. And so I've been in a lot of different industries. I've always been an entrepreneur, right? I've lived my whole life as, the guy that can start business. I was always able to recreate myself. And so that led me, you fast forward years down the line in 2019 to create the business called Masternomics, which, prior to that, I was very successful. I built a $1 million tax franchise. I got into the tax business and I learned how to scale that up. And so I was definitely financially good, right? I had my wife and living the life that I wanted to live. But, then, things happen on the planet, a pandemic, and my mind starts to shift to be like, you know what? I want to live in purpose. I would love to tell people my life, but more importantly, show them how they can change their life and create financial freedom. So that's what led me to create this business called Masternomics, along with my wife. I could not have done it by myself because it was her push and her seeing me bigger than what I actually was that helped me get to where I am today. And so that's what we do. Like, we help people take their life and business to another level.
Why did you choose that name? I love it.
I chose the name because it's a combination of mastery and economics. Yep. And so I like to teach from the aspect of, I studied languages and phonetics. And if you look at economics, it's not what people really think. If you look up the root word of economics, it's Latin and it's oikonomia, which means household management. And so mastery is just mastery. It is what it is. So in order to be a great business person, you have to master the economics of yourself and your household and your life first and foremost. So that's financial literacy. So, I was like, we need something unique. So we combined the mastery and nomics and came up with Masternomics.
Fabulous. Do you feel that many times change doesn't happen in our lives unless it's forced? Something major happens, could be loss of a job, divorce, loss of relationship, whatever it is, that something, bam, happens. And now you're forced to change direction. Do you feel that happens a lot? And do people tell you that, when you work with them?
Yeah, that's a reality, right? And so the goal is to show people that you don't have to wait until something outside of you forces you. And so that's the way I teach entrepreneurship in that aspect. I teach it in a spiritual aspect of creativity, because that is how most things change. Like, somebody's been working on a job for 10 years, they're comfortable, right? And then they find out, the company's gone belly up, or we got bought out, so we're downsizing, or whatever, and it's traumatic. And then what happens is, we as humans, we get through it, right? We learn to adjust, but we're letting somebody outside create a new reality for us. So I teach entrepreneurship in the form of creation from you, from the inside out, where it is you can look at things. And the reason why most of us don't create the life that we want, because we don't take the time to see where we actually are. So in business, I always tell people, you got to know your numbers, right? You can't say, I want to make X amount of dollars, and I ask you, what are you making now? And it's like, oh, I think I'm making this, I think I'm making that. So you got to know where you're at in life. And so I always tell people, the most least thing studied is ourselves. We can know football games, basketball games, we can learn everything outside of us, but we don't know anything about ourselves internally, what makes us tick, what we like, what we don't like. So if we would focus on that, we realize we have the ability to create the life that we want. And so therefore, traumatic events from the outside won't just shift us. We can shift ourselves and create, the life that we want.
Do you feel in all of this, it's fundamental that we know who we are, or we figure out who we are?
Yeah, that's the fundamental aspect, right? Because if you don't know who you are, you don't know where you're going, right? You don't know where you're at, you don't know where you're going, but who you are, right? So when I ask people and they say, well, who are you? They look at me like I'm crazy, or I'm John Doe, I'm that person. but who are you really, right? You're a being that has the ability to shift reality. If I say, well, if I talk to somebody and they're 40 years old and I say, well, how many jobs have you had? Well, I worked for this company, I worked for that company. They might have came from the sales industry. Now they're working on a factory somewhere. So so you shifted who you are. 10 years ago, you was the guy working in the t-shirt shop or in the fast food restaurant. Now you're the guy working here, right? So who you are is not your circumstance. Who you are, the essence of us, is really spiritual. And the spiritual part can move and it can go wherever you want it to go. But the reality is we're letting outside forces shift us. If you know who you are a spiritual being that's having a physical experience. I don't care whatever religion anybody is. The reality is we all know that there's a spirit inside of us. The outer part of us is going to change regardless. Definitely going to change physically. And if you're just working for somebody, they're going to dictate and you're going to change from this position to that position. But the power is realizing I am a spiritual being that can take any shape, form I want. So there's no amount of money I cannot make, right? Unless I believe that.
I am so on your page there.
Yeah.
And it was, you don't know until you don't know. And especially, we could say, yeah, I know myself.
Yeah.
Do you really know yourself? And in the last number of years, call it 4, I believe in my situation, I truly figured out who I am. And it's always a moving target because we change. That being said, Martin, do you feel that like you were the t-shirt guy seller, back in the day. Do you feel that we reevaluate our lives? And this is what I heard, every 5 years. And it changes, it's a moving target there again. But do you feel that we have that realization, like, what am I doing? Why am I in this relationship? Is this good? This job, is this working for me? Do you feel that we do that on like a 5-year basis?
We do, right? And a lot of it we do because there's part of us that hits a consciousness levels, right? So like if you study consciousness and human development, they say, well, a child is going to be the way they are by 7. Yeah. That their personality is going to kind of be set.
Yep.
Then like you kind of just threw out there, every 5 years we evaluate ourselves. Why? Because society says, well, at 18 you're supposed to be able to leave your mother's house, right? Well, at this age you're supposed to be able to buy a house. At this age you're supposed to do this. At this age you have kids. So a lot of there's been markers that have been set. And we just, go according to these markers. And so when a man hits 40, you start looking at your life like, oh, maybe it wouldn't be so bad to get married. We start thinking about things because at the end of the day, we're going to be gone one day physically, right? And so we start to evaluate yourself at these different age markers. But the beautiful thing is, I call it jumping time. You can jump time once you realize the power you have, right? So when I tell people like, you're really a spiritual being. To understand that you can't see it, but you can feel it, right? So you have the ability with understanding your spiritual and feeling can create reality to say and look at somebody and say like, this guy lived to be 60 years old before he, was able to take a vacation, right? I can't feel that. That's on a vibration. I can't see myself going that long working for somebody before I could take a vacation, right? So once you realize who you are, you can change your reality right now, right? Literally you can jump time, and jumping time is not making the mistakes. Because some people, it took them 10 years to learn, right? It shouldn't take you 10 years when you have that example to look at, right? Yeah. And so this is the thing, realizing the time is now.
100 billion%. And once you know yourself, you know what you need, you know what your values are, your standards are, and then you can make those adjustments. And it even comes to relationships. If you know who you are, somebody comes into your life, once you fine tune, you can pick up on their vibration and you can say right away, that's not working for me. That's not, that's on my radar. And that term, the 7-year itch, I've often heard that, and it's a lot of times tied into romantic type relationships. Yeah. I think it's universal. The 7-year itch is 5 years. You go before you reevaluate your situation. It takes you 2 years to decide what to do about it, i.e. the 7-year itch. And it's funny, when I heard that, I looked at my life, especially in, the close relationship. Every 7 years, there was a something, call it a something, like, look at that. Within a few months, within maybe a year, around the 7 year. Take a look at that. I think it's interesting. If you apply it.
Yeah. And I like to add to that too, that, I think that God or the universe is always trying to help us be the best that we can be.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's always something that's trying to shift you to really make you look at life from a different perspective.
For sure.
Right. And so, our problem as people is you can't be, you're just like me, right? The way I value people, whatever, at 18, if I still think and look at people the way I look at that, I'm 48 now, right? If I'm still thinking and looking at the world through the eyes of an 18-year-old, what did I do with the 40 years? Along that line, there's been something, God has sent somebody there in your life to kind of try to shift you. And our problem is some humans, we want to be so comfortable, which is dead. We stay in a dead zone and we think we're really living, but we're just really on life support. Like we're just waking up every day doing the same thing until we expire.
Yeah. Well, how does that go? You're alive, which is fine. Wouldn't you rather thrive? That's the difference. Right. And you talked about the 18-year-old and 48. We're still living as 8-year-olds. Like when somebody says to you, you're acting like a kid. Yeah, we are. Because we're running those programs from our childhood, which we can get into another time we get together. Martin, how do we connect with you? If this is resonating with somebody, they're looking for change in their life, you're the go-to. What's the best way to start that conversation?
Masternomics on all platforms, all social media platforms. Definitely like and subscribe. Masternomics on YouTube. You can always reach us through the website. You can reach us by email, masternomics1@gmail.com. That's going to be your best way. But like on all social media platforms, email us, message us. You can go to the website. You can check out some of the courses. You can check out some of the content. We're all over, and we're just here to serve. Just here to serve the people. So that's the purpose. That's why Masternomics exists.
And that's your purpose.
Yes.
Yeah. And I believe that would be a wonderful topic in the future. How to find your purpose. I think many of us don't even know what our purpose is. Are we living it? Are we doing it? But that's a game changer. Right. Wonderful talking with you today. It took me, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, that long to figure this stuff out. Don't wait, people.
Hey, whatever it is, you're getting better in life. Every year we get better.
There's a reason for everything.
That's right.
And you have to embrace what's been presented because it's only, like you said, and I think we both agree, the universe wants the best thing for you. What is the universe? You can define that in your own way.
That's right.
We're not here to be miserable. The universe wants the best for us. You got to do your part as well.
There we go.
Wonderful talking with you today, Martin. Really appreciate it. And looking forward next time we get together.
Hey, I appreciate you. See you again.
Same here. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go!
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
"Hey, you got this. Just breathe." Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.